Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here at FedScoop's virtual Data Cloud Summit with Michael Byrd, Vice President Channel Sales at Red Hat. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Wyatt, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to be here virtually.
Yes, virtually. Well, as we kick off 2021, what would you say are some of the biggest priorities in the government space for data management?
Well, I don't think it's incredibly unique to this year, but openness, transparency in government has been a big priority for the last several years, and it's certainly becoming even more important right now. Sharing data across industry, across education, federal, state, and local education, especially now with folks responding to COVID-19, they've become even more acute in their priority here. So those things have just continued to become more important.
Well, and as we reflect on the impact of COVID-19, how would you say the pandemic has further emphasized the need for strong data management and maybe as importantly, data sharing practices?
Well, the federal data strategy calls for leveraging data as a strategic asset. And we've seen with COVID-19, it's a perfect use case in that the more you share data, and the more specifically, the data you share, the more it gets, the more important it is to folks, right? So if you look at treatments, and we've seen obviously treatment improve over the time, and the more it's been shared amongst all these different entities, both in the healthcare world itself, across governments, both federal and state and local, we've seen those things improve. So the mantra is the more you share the data, the more important it becomes. So sharing obviously is really a big deal, and we need to come up with ways to share it, policies to make sure it's shared properly. COVID-19 has just been a perfect case study for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, next, as agencies look to adopt cloud and artificial intelligence, what should they consider when it comes to their data and data practices?
Well, I'm obviously a Red Hat guy, so I'm a big fan of this kind of open hybrid cloud model of approaching data and compute. And right now, if you look at decision making, there's so many different footprints that it needs to happen on. There's the traditional kind of bare metal on-premise type of world where data resides. There's virtual worlds where data resides. There's private clouds. There's public clouds. There's edge, right? Mobile devices, drones, everything. There's data everywhere. And now these data pools are growing into such large amounts that you got to be able to move the compute and the decision making to where the data is. It's not practical to move all that data back into some data center somewhere. So you need to have a broad, diverse capability to run those computations, to run that decision making process, and you need to be able to run where that data is. So I'd say that's in the AI world, that's really, really important. It needs to become repeatable. So you need to be able to do it the same way, and it needs to be open in such a way that decision-making policy can be audited and people can find out why or why not a decision went in a particular direction. So those, I think, are really, really important components of AI today, especially in government.
And lastly, as data sharing increases, how should agencies and organizations think of the security risks that are present and will likely become more of a factor as we move forward?
Yeah, it's a challenging problem. It gets bigger and bigger with the more data we have, with the bigger pipes, with 5G coming out. It's a real challenge. And it's something that we all have to shoulder that burden. We can't just rely on the IT group or the IT person to manage that, right? So much of computing as well as just pure data. We want to automate everything as much as possible, so we have a standard way of doing all of our stuff. This way it's easier to identify breaches and process. We want to standardize that. Of course, that's what you do when you automate it, but you would like to have role-based access control. because getting back that everyone has a role to play in security, if I can limit the access I have to data and to compute and networking functions, I can only impact a smaller component of the broader ecosystem. And that role-based access control will prevent me, even though I'm intending to do well, I might mistakenly provide some access to an ill doer, because we're not thinking enough, all of us collectively, about the ill doer and what they're going to do. So we're typically approaching things from kind of an area of noble intent. So if we can limit that role-based access control to just what I need, that will limit the profile for ill doers. So you combine that with the standardization and automation, I think you'll have a much more secure model. It won't be perfect, but it's going to be limiting the risk.
Oh, some great points. Well, Michael, Byrd, thank you so much for joining us here, and appreciate your sharing your insights with us.
Great. Awesome, Wyatt. Thanks for the opportunity.